as the Community Outreach Commissioner on the Board of Managers. I use she, her pronouns. And I am hoping to turn 70 pretty soon. And I'm wearing, getting a little gray in there in my red hair and wearing my purple Living Legacy sweatshirt today. Here are this week's announcements. We tried to make our service as accessible as possible with hearing helpers and large print versions of service materials available from our ushers in the back. Our newsletter is mailed on Thursdays. Paper copies can be found at the entrances to the building. It tells you about upcoming events and activities. Please ask one of our greeters how you can stay in touch if you want to be on our mailing list. This is a huge thank you to those people who bring items for sharing during coffee hour. We have an alphabetized system that is published in the newsletter, inviting you to contribute on certain weeks. Please remember that coffee hour is intended as a nut-free space. This means avoiding nut flours and nut milk too. An advance notice. On April 6th, we will have a short meeting immediately after the worship service. Members of the congregation will be voting on recommendations. Oops, we're going to echo there. For Jones Partnership Fund grants and the delegates being nominated for attendance at General Assembly. Want to vote but not yet a member? Speak to a greeter or a member of the staff, and we'd love for you to become a member if this is the right time. Next week is Music Sunday, and we will be sharing our plate with the National Music Charity. Full details in next week's newsletters. Today is one of Reverend Elka's one Sunday per month off. We're delighted that April Rosario, our Director of Faith Formation, will be leading us in worship today. This is the end of today's announcements, and we are still so glad you're here. Please check you have silenced your phone and other communication devices. And now it's time to please turn around and wave to the lovely people who are joining us via Zoom. Okay, and the camera's right up there. Up top.
If we lived in another climate, our souls might speak another language. We might speak oasis or permafrost, dry season or monsoon. But our souls speak spring. Our souls speak green shoots pushing through last year's leaves. Our souls speak flower buds stretching towards the sun. Our souls speak mud puddles and nest building, damp earth and worm castings, tiny green leaves and frog choruses. We speak spring because spring speaks to us. We gather to nurture our faith in our own growing, our own courage to push through, our own blossoming in beauty, our own small part in the spring of this world. Come, let us worship together. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, and welcome. My name is April Rosario. My pronouns are she, her. I am a Black woman in my late 30s. I have medium length dreadlocks. And today I am wearing my favorite color, green, all different shades of green and a little bit of cream thrown in. I am the Director of Faith Formation here at First Parish in Waltham, and I am so glad to be with all of you this morning. I'm glad to be with you because Sundays are a special time. A time when we gather together to live out our dreams, to help each other, and to be part of something greater than ourselves. Because it's together that we find meaning, strength, and love to help guide us in all that we do. We begin each of our Sunday worship services with the lighting of our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. This morning, I would like to invite up Pam, B, and Carla to help me light this morning's chalice. And our chalice lighting is entitled An Elemental Invocation by David Ensley. This time of balance, at this time of awakening, we celebrate Ostara, the spring equinox.
We honor the fertile earth and the warming breezes.
We honor the waxing light and the nurturing rains.
Welcome spring, new life to bring.
Sing of the east, the realm of air, their gifts of sight and wisdom fair. Dancing March breeze on this blessed morn, we celebrate the spring, newly born.
Sing of the south where fire burns bright, their gifts of passion and ardent light. Lengthening warm days on this blessed morn, we celebrate the spring newly born.
Sing of the west, deep water clear. There gifts of health and love draw near. Flowing with life on this blessed morn, we celebrate the spring newly born.
Sing of the north and strength of earth, their gifts of life in joyous rebirth. Springing up green on this blessed morn, we celebrate the spring newly born.
Sing of the Spirit, source of all.
Giver of life to you we call.
Moving in us on this blessed morn,
We celebrate the spring newly born.
may the powers of the stars above and the earth below bless this time, this place, and all who gather here.
Please rise in body or spirit as you are willing and able and join us in our opening hymn, number 1000, Morning Has Come in the Teal Hymnal. please remain standing and join me in our unison affirmation, which begins with the word love and may be found in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you. Please be seated. So, as many of you know, each month here at First Parish, we explore a different theme. We explore it up here in our worship service, and our kids and our youth explore it in various places throughout the building. We used to just say downstairs, but we have so many of them. They're in all different rooms now. Today, we're exploring that theme, the practice of trust, through the lens of the spring equinox. Now, today is not the actual spring equinox, but it is right around the corner. So with that in mind, I want to share a very special story with you that's called Trust. I should tell you, this story starts like so many of my favorites do. I caught myself. It starts with, for those of you that have been here before, could you help me let our newest friends know how so many of my stories start? They start with, once upon a time, long, 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 long ago. Before people had calendars or clocks, they watched the world around them to understand things, to understand time, space, and purpose. They noticed how the days grew long over the summer and short in the winter. Does anyone go to sleep in the dark in the wintertime? Does anyone have to go to sleep in the sunlight in the summertime? Yeah, it happens. They would watch the sun in the sky to help them find their place and time in space. They watched the sun in the sky because they knew that something magical was happening. Twice a year, my friends, can you help me do twice a year? Can you put up 2 fingers? Twice a year, the day and the night were in perfect balance. As much daylight as there was moonlight. One of these special days is called the spring equinox, a time when, like I said, the darkness starts to shift and we get to that perfect balance. People celebrated this day because they trusted that the warmer days, the blooming flowers, and fresh food was on its way. Most people did, but not everybody. Some people found it hard to trust in the rhythms of nature. Some people found it nerve-wracking or scary. They had those little what ifs in the back of their mind. One of those people was a very young child. Any of my kids here ever asked, but what if? Yeah, see, I see some hands. On this particular year, the child said, what if? What if the light doesn't return? What if the flowers don't bloom? What if the days don't grow longer? What if, what if, what if, what if? The child's grown-ups tried to answer as many ways as they could. Any grown-ups in here ever tried to answer a what if as many ways as you can? Yeah. And finally, the grown-up said, I don't always have the answers. Let's find someone who does. So they put on their boots, They put on their coats, they put on their hats and their gloves, and started off on a journey. Eventually, they got to the door of a wise one. Now, I am not near a pew. Can all of you help me out? Can you knock on the pew in front of you? Oh, thank you. And they knocked on the door of the wise one. The wise one opened the door and said, "How may I help you?" Before the grown-up could say anything, the child said, "I have a question," and shot their hand straight up into the air. "What is your question?" the wise one said. "It's a what if question." "My favorite kind," said the wise one. "What are you wondering?" And the child began to rattle off their list of questions. What if the sun doesn't come back? What if the flowers don't bloom? What if the birds don't sing? What if, what if, what if, what if? Let's take a walk. The wise one held out their hand and the child clasped it. They left the house and went out into the woods. The wise one pointed up high. "Do you see that tree right there?" the wise one asked. "Yes," said the child. "What does it look like?" "Nothing," said the child. The wise one said, "Exactly. It looks like nothing is happening, but inside, deep down inside the tree, sap is already rising, getting ready to bring new leaves." "Oh," said the child. They took a few more steps. They got to a river. The wise one pointed. "Look down there. What do you see?" "I don't know," said the child. "A river?" The wise one said, "Yes. But look closely. The ice is starting to melt. The river knows the seasons will change. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to. It does not rush. It will flow when the time is right." They took a few more steps and they made their way to a beehive. The bees were starting to stir. Anyone know what a bee sounds like? Yeah. The bees were starting to stir, carefully venturing out, poking their head, pulling it back in, checking to see if the air was warm enough. Again, the wise one told the child to look. "What do you see?" This time the child said, "I'm not sure." "Good answer," said the wise one. "What I see is that the bees trust the world around them. They do not wake too soon, but nor do they doubt that the flowers are coming." As the child listened, they realized that nature did not rush. It did not doubt. In fact, each part of nature was an intricate part of the world, trusting in the rhythms of the seasons, trusting in the rhythm of its season. That spring, the child learned a very valuable lesson. The child learned patience and trust. And when the first flowers bloomed and the sun grew strong, the child smiled, looked at their grown-ups and said, "I knew that was coming." Their grown-ups nodded. And every year, when the weather would start to turn, from that point on, the child would say, "Don't worry, spring will come. We just have to be patient." Now, technically, that is where my story ends, but you know, I have a challenge for you. Your challenge is this. We are in that time where the weather isn't quite sure what it wants to do. How are you leaning into that? How is it reminding you to practice patience, to practice trust, even in the things that you can't quite see. In the days and the weeks to follow, I challenge you, if you choose to accept it, to find 2 places in your life. We practiced those 2s a minute ago. 2 places in your life. One where you can practice patience, and one where you can practice trust that what is supposed to be will be. Now, in just a second, our kids and our youth are going to head off. But before they do, I invite you all to please rise as you are willing and able in body or spirit, and join us in our next hymn, number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth, found in your gray hymnal. You all. Our junior youth can head off to the Harrington room. You can follow Liam. Our friendship finders and chalice children can head downstairs with Vivian, and Dana is already down there. Please be seated. We have come to the spot in our service where we have an opportunity to lift up joys and sorrows, the moments that make up our lives, the moments that we may not want to carry on our own because they are either too great and need to be shared and celebrated with others, or they are too great to bear the sorrow of on our own. So, if you are here in the sanctuary, I invite you to make a line and come up this way to light a candle for joy or for sorrow. If you are joining us over Zoom, I invite you to type in your joy or sorrow to the chat. And as you make your way up and light your candle, if you could remind us of your name and your pronouns, because not everybody knows everybody. And I'm going to get you a mic. I'd like to invite you now into a space and time of meditation. I invite you to place your body in a way that feels comfortable for you. Maybe shake out any stiffness you feel. Be careful, don't whack your neighbor next to you. Plant your feet on the floor below you. Stretch your spine to the sky. And as you are comfortable, close your eyes or cast them down. Take a deep, intentional breath through your nose, in through your nose and out through your mouth. Feel the weight of your body resting on the earth, held in the gentle embrace of this moment and this community. As you breathe, feel your lungs begin to swell and lift in your chest. Reach down to your core or your belly button. I invite you to find any pain, sorrow, anxiety, loneliness, lethargy, anything you might feel. Sit with it for a moment. Allow yourself to feel it deeply. And then as you exhale, release those emotions, whatever is held in your heart that is no longer serving you. Maybe you imagine it becoming a small bird and you release it and set it free. Or maybe you imagine it as a small seed that you let sink down into the earth where all things are transformed. Either way, release that which is no longer serving you. And then take a journey with me. It's March, that time of year where you're never quite sure what the day will bring. The season when snow can cover the ground, mud can cover your shoes, and rain can turn to ice without warning. It is during this tumultuous weather time that the magic begins to happen. It is during this time of resurrection, of renewal, and new life. On your next breath, imagine, see in your mind's eye, if you will, a field of snow white. You are in that field. And it's the kind of snow that has that crunchy layer on top. So when you take a step, your feet don't make too much of an impression, but you can hear that you've been there. Inhale the cold winter air deep into your lungs. Invigorating, isn't it? But now, as you release that breath, notice how it begins to grow warm. And imagine the sun shining on your face. Comforting, isn't it? Allow your mind to travel down your body, bringing that comforting warmth with it. Bring it through your chest and through your arms, through your belly and your hips. Bring it down through your legs, all the way to your feet, and finally to the earth below you. When you look down, you've noticed that that warmth has melted the snow where you stand. And you can see and smell small mounds of mud and mosses that are beginning to come to life. You hear a Canadian goose call as it flies overhead. You become aware of the roots of the first flowering plants that have begun to stretch and reach deeper into the earth for nourishment. Your senses are heightened, and you take notice of the tiny ants, the beetles, and all the other insects that are beginning to emerge. You are in the moment of the spring equinox, a moment of equilibrium, day and night in perfect balance. The earth is waking and life is bustling, and the light is returning. Can you see it in your mind's eye? Good. Hold on to it. Bring that energy, that life, that light, and that warmth, the budding trees and the new life emerging all around you into you. Pull all that energy into your heart space and let it take root there. And as it takes root, I invite you to take one last deep meditative breath and bring yourself back to this place and this time. And as you open your eyes, exhale and exclaim, spring has arrived. I have often found nature to be one of my greatest teachers. And one of the biggest lessons has been the reminder that life itself is an act of generosity. The trees offer us their first buds. The soil gives rise to new growth, and the returning light nurtures all that is emerging. Just as the seasons move in cycles of giving and receiving, so does our community. We give when we're able, and not out of obligation, but out of love. Love for this community, love for the work of justice and compassion, love for the next generation, and love for the world that we are dreaming into being. So today, as we embrace the spirit of the spring equinox, the balance of darkness and light, rest and renewal, and our theme of practicing trust, let us also embrace the truth that generosity is in itself a practice of trust. Just like we plant seeds, the gifts that we plant here will take root and grow in ways that we may not even be able to see or imagine, nourishing the life of this congregation and the world beyond. May we now generously give and gratefully receive this morning's offering. And if you are visiting or new with us, you are our guest, and we hope that you find a spiritual home here and consider contributing when the time is right for you. Our reading today is entitled Practicing the Strengths of the Earth and is by young Pueblo. You're welcome.
Good morning. My name is Susan Knapp. I am a 70-something-year-old white woman, and my pronouns are she and her, and I'm very pleased to be here today. Our reading this morning is a poem by young Pueblo, a poet known for his writings on personal growth and connection to nature, and is from his book, Clarity and Connection. Practice the strengths of earth. Have a giving nature. Be grounded in your purpose. Hold firm in times of turbulence. Cultivate the qualities of water. Move through life with gentleness. Have access to your power at all times. Flexibility and persistence increase success. Embody the teachings of fire. Transmute what you experience into light. Be strong enough to have clear boundaries. Have an awareness of when you need more fuel. Internalize the values of air. Release your expectations. Embrace the constant movement of change. Seeing is not everything. Feeling is essential. Practice the strengths of earth and find balance.
Thank you, Susan. Guessing that those of you have known me for more than a day have heard me say things like, my favorite, blah, blah, blah. And then I start to list things. Or, oh, I love blah, blah, blah. And then I start to list things. Yeah, see, some of you are smiling and nodding. It's a thing that I do. I talk about the things that I love and the things that are my favorite all of the time. And the truth is, they're not exaggerations. I am a person who loves so much and so many things. I love deeply and I love openly. And I am definitely a glass half full kind of girl. So when I name several things that I love or that are my favorite, especially in a short time frame or back to back, please don't think that it's performative or any less real. I wrote that because the first sentence I wrote in this was, I love this time of year. And I do. I love the spring equinox and I love earth-centered traditions. But most importantly, I love the lessons that we can learn from nature. The word equinox comes from the Latin equus, meaning equal, and nox, meaning night, symbolizing the balance between day and night. It's one of two times of year where the Earth's axis tilts neither towards nor away from the sun, creating nearly equal portions of light and dark across the planet. This moment in nature is a reminder that balance is not just an abstract idea, but a reality that is woven into our very existence. This sacred time when light and darkness share equal time marks the turning of the wheel. And as I've mentioned today, it's a time of renewal, of growth, of balance, and reminding us of this ever-turning cycle of life. and the lessons that we can draw from nature's rhythms. A question that is often asked by folks to Unitarian Universalists or about Unitarian Universalists is, yeah, but how do you know what to believe if you don't have one holy text? Or because you don't have a holy text, does that mean you can just believe anything you want to? I love answering this question. And the answer that I often give is that no, we can't just believe anything. In fact, our faith and our values call us to do the work of investigating what we believe and why we believe it in a way that is responsible in both search and meaning for us individually. And one of the ways that Unitarians, Universalists do this is to seek wisdom from many places. From ancient traditions to contemporary insights, from science to personal experiences, from all the world's religions and faith traditions. The equinox in itself is a combination of so many of those things, and it invites us to pause and consider the wisdom of nature herself. It invites us to ask the question, what does this moment of balance teach us? And how do we embrace its lessons on our own spiritual path and in our daily lives? It is literally a door to that search of understanding truth and meaning. The Mayans built temples aligned with the equinox sun, while the Druids and the Celts celebrated with festivals of renewal. The Persian New Year falls at this time and symbolizes the rebirth of life. In Japan, the equinox is a time to honor ancestors and reflect on the harmony of life. In short, across time and culture, this season has been seen as a threshold, a bridge between the dormancy of winter and the vibrancy of spring. And this threshold, this season of renewal, is not just a physical one. It is also deeply spiritual. For us as Unitarian Universalists, the equinox calls us again to reflect on the balance in our own lives, but it also reminds us of our interconnectedness and how we might align or realign ourselves and trust in the natural rhythms of the world. In the story that I told, I gave an example of how the trees don't question whether the sun will return after winter. They simply shed their leaves in the fall and rest, knowing that the spring will come and with it renewal. The flowers don't hesitate to bloom, fearing that the warmth won't last. They simply open with the fullness of their trust in the season that they are in. And yet, as human beings, we often resist these rhythms in life, or at least I do. As human beings, we tend to hold on to things, certainty, or try to control outcomes, or rush ahead when patience is needed. For me, control feels like safety. It feels comforting. And I can get caught up in that if I'm not really careful. In fact, it is something that I actively work to let go of every day, because I don't live my life in isolation. And so the thought of controlling every aspect of it, while it might seem and feel safe to me, is just unreasonable. For others, it might not be control that brings them comfort or safety. Maybe it's the feeling of always needing to push themselves to be in a state of production. You know those folks that don't ever seem to just sit still? Maybe for others, it's the fear of the coming of change and a reluctance to let go of the way things have always been. because the way things have always been is a way we know. And that can feel safe and comforting. And I promise you, there's no shame in this. It's why I listed myself first. Out of the way we're hardwired, just a little bit. What if we could be more like the trees and the flowers? What if we too could trust in the turning of the seasons of our lives? What if we could embrace the cycles of rest and renewal, knowing that each are important and each should be given space in our lives? What if we embraced growth and retreat, light and dark, again, knowing each of these things has its place? What if we embraced balance, not as a thing of permanence, but as a moment in time? So many questions, I know. But part of what our faith, part of what being a Unitarian Universalist is knowing that we are not a faith that will give you the answers, but a faith that will give you the tools to ask the questions that make sense in your life. In this moment in time, these are the questions that make sense in my life. So I share them with you. What if we decide to embrace balance and trust as the turning of the seasons do? How would that affect us? How would it show up in our lives? What would it change? These could be complex, sometimes hectic lives that we are all leading. The equinox reminds us again that balance is not a static state, but a dynamic one, a dance between two opposites. I think it's really easy to fall into the assumption that balance is something we must achieve and then hold on to for dear life. Like we're trying to keep everything in perfect order. But nature teaches us that balance is fluid. The tides, they rise and fall. The moon waxes and wanes. We inhale and exhale. Balance is not about staying or being in a fixed state. It's about moving with the rhythms of life. And because of that, I often think that balance is one of the great spiritual challenges in life. So how do we tap into it? If we choose to. The equinox reminds us again of our deep-rooted interconnectedness with Earth, a value that Unitarian Universalism holds up. As the planets tilt and turn, as flowers bloom and birds return, we can take this time to remember that we are part of a much greater whole. We are not living in isolation, but living in a way that is connected to everything else. Our lives, like the changing season, are woven into the intricate web of existence. People throughout history have marked the equinox with rituals of gratitude and renewal. I give you a challenge at the end of my story. It would be silly to think I wouldn't give you one at the end of a sermon too. So here it is. If you choose to accept this challenge, how might you mark this time? This time in your life, this time in nature? What might you do to create a meaningful observance? Again, meaningful for you. Some might choose to welcome the new season by spending time outdoors, by planting seeds, or simply sitting in a quiet atmosphere and appreciating nature's beauty. Others might light a candle to symbolize the return of the sun's warmth and the inner light that guides us forward. Maybe some of you will choose to spend some time journaling about intentions for the coming months, while others might find meaning in engaging in acts of service or gathering in community to celebrate new beginnings. Or maybe you've never considered creating a way of marking this time. And so all you do when you step out the doors today is take a deep breath of fresh air and notice something blooming, something alive. However you choose to observe it, if you choose to observe it, the equinox is an opportunity to pause, reflect, and align or realign ourselves with the sacred rhythms of life. It is a reminder that as light returns, growth is always possible. Just as light returns, growth is always possible. And that we are deeply connected with the great unfolding of the universe. At no time are we alone. So as we stand at this threshold of spring, this doorway between winter's quiet and summer's energy, may we embrace the lessons of the equinox. May we welcome the return of warmth and light and all the possibility that comes with it. May we find courage to embrace change, patience to trust the unfolding, and joy in the beauty of renewal. May we honor both the darkness that has shaped us and the light that calls us forward. May we move into this season with open hearts, trusting that what was once dormant can bloom again. May we seek balance, grounded in the knowledge that it is not about perfection, but about presence, about living fully in each moment and embracing the dance of life with trust and grace. May we remember our deep interconnectedness and commit to living in harmony with its rhythm. Friends, the spring equinox is an invitation, if you choose to see it that way. A reminder that we too are part of the great turning of the wheel. So let us step forward into the light with hope, gratitude, and the courage to grow. I invite you to now all rise in body or spirit as you are willing and able, and join us in singing our closing hymn today, which is 1068, Rising Green, found in your teal hymnal. My closing words today are those of hope. Hope that as we move forward into the next seasons of life, we feel the joy of spring, smell the flowers, walk barefoot on the earth, plant seeds, listen to bird songs, journal our dreams, and nourish with healing foods. Hope that we honor our personal journeys toward new beginnings, abundance, and creativity. Hope that we honor the fertile earth and the warming breezes, the waxing light and the returning rains. And hope that as we leave this time together, we leave it with gratefulness for each other, for this space that we have created, and for the great purpose that we live. May we go forward, serve this world, one another, and those yet to come. I want to light my hair on fire. May it be so.